I would say that New York City Brooklyn in particular, in New York City, had a huge influence on who I am as an MC. My music influence comes from my household, how my parents raised me.
Let's go, say 1, 2, 3. This is how we do it when we out on tour. You say 1, 3. This damn shit you never seen before. You say 1, 2.
Hello and welcome to the Lily Mercer Show. I'm here with the legendary Talib Kweli.
Hey.
Welcome.
How you doing?
This is like a second home to you though, London, isn't it? It's not like the first time you've been here by far.
Oh no, I'm in London a few times a year.
Yeah, because you were here earlier on in the year with Black Star with Mos Def.
That's right.
Yeah.
That was fun.
So I found out this year that you guys actually opened or bought a bookstore together. Mm-hmm. How did that come about?
I used to work at Incurable Books in Brooklyn. I started my career there. I used to do poetry readings and hip-hop events out of there.
We suckers, for real. And we gotta get off of that, man. We come here to these places, and it's good to feel good, but we gotta know that we gotta do more. We ain't doing nothing. It's young people like you, all over the world dying. Catch a bullet, Tiananmen Square dudes. How many one of us would say that we would have stood in front of that tank if it was us? For real. Think about that, and I hope I ain't blow nobody's vibe or high, but I had to say it.
Yassine was one of the frequent guests. When we first got our record deal, the bookstore was about to close down, so we invested our money in keeping it open.
And you both started Hip Hop for Respect about 15 years ago almost. Mm-hmm. How do you feel things have changed? Do you feel that we're in a better place, or do you feel not much has changed? Because it was against police brutality.
Yeah, I mean, police brutality and that type of racism is so institutionalized that one record or one event is not going to change it. You know, that's something that requires like a structural revolution to change. All you can do is, you know, push back against it and point out the injustices when you see it. But those injustices are going to continue for the rest of our days.
Yeah. I feel like you've always been considered a conscious rapper, so it's like it's important to you obviously to speak out against those things. But do you ever feel boxed in by it?
You know, I don't personally feel boxed in, but I feel like people do attempt to try to box me in. Mm-hmm. You know, if I wasn't cognizant of those attempts, I would feel boxed in.
And do you think that maybe people are just a bit narrow-minded to think that just talking in a positive way about certain things means you're conscious? You know?
Well, it's not really their fault because, you know, mainstream media doesn't hold up a balanced portrayal of what hip-hop is. So people who just get their hip-hop from the mainstream think that hip-hop is only about certain things, and then when they hear somebody speaking about something different, they have to find a way to box it or label it.
It's like the stereotype that, like, you know, there are no fathers. Rappers have never had fathers raise them. It's like there are most rappers, I feel, you know, actually do have many positive role models in their lives that are kind of ignored in a way.
I agree. Rappers have positive role models, and I would say that my generation was more in tune with being fathers because a lot of us didn't have our fathers. I had my father, but I was unique on my block. I was the only young black man on my block whose father was around. You know, so all my homeboys I grew up with, they didn't have their fathers, but now all of them are great fathers. You know, so I feel like we've learned from hip hop in a certain way, from records like Ed O.G. and the Bulldogs, and from, you know, the hip hop spirit of family and unity and culture. If they didn't get that from their fathers, they must have got it from hip hop.
I feel that the 90s was, it was kind of, you know, gangster rap was probably one of the ruling, you know, mini genres within hip hop in the 90s. But I feel that there were actually more conscious or political voices in rap then than today. Why do you think there are less political voices now?
I wouldn't say there are less political voices in hip hop. I would say there's less political voices in mainstream hip hop. And there's a huge difference because you can find it. If you're a fan of hip hop, you can find it all day. But if you're only paying attention to what's on the charts, what's in the nightclubs, what's in the videos, then yeah, you might think that there's nothing out there that's positive or conscious or uplifting. But then again, you have to count the blessings and not the losses. You know, you have the records that are at the top of the charts that are misogynistic and, you know, and violent and all that, and capitalistic and all that. But then you have artists that break through like Kendrick Lamar or J. Cole or Macklemore who break through the mainstream. And then they have far more staying power than some artists who had a big poppy dance hit. You know, so J. Cole had dropped a new album, you know, in a week or so. You know, there are rappers from 4 years ago who were hotter than J. Cole, who are now, you know, you're like, oh, whatever happened to that guy? So, you know, it's the artists who make the music with that is not empty that have staying power.
And I feel like 5%ers, like knowledge was a huge influence on hip hop as a whole, like especially for New York. So how did it kind of influence your writing in any way?
Oh yeah, without a doubt, I'm definitely a student of the 5% philosophy of hip hop. I consider myself a 5% at one point in my life. I don't anymore, but I have a huge respect for the nation of God's earths, and there's no denying the impact that the 5% nation has on hip hop. New York City hip hop, particularly, that's a great observation. But because hip hop started in New York City, it's influenced hip hop as a whole.
And I wanted to say, like, was that ever something that you felt that you would have, like, when you entered the industry? Did you ever think you'd still be here rapping, or did you think that it was kind of going to be a brief stint in your career?
No, I plan to do this forever. You know, I didn't plan on you knowing who I am, but I planned on rapping forever.
Okay. Are you happy with where you are now? Is it like beyond where you wanted to be?
Yeah, I'm ecstatic.
That's good. Because it's been 10 studio albums. I know you've had like 6 solo, but...
Yeah, it's been 13.
Wow.
Yeah. But 10 is good. You know, most people haven't even got to 10 yet. So it's good that you know about 10 of them.
I wanted to ask about Raucous Records, because I feel like that was one of the greatest kind of eras of record labels, you know. What is there like a favorite story from that era for you?
I don't know if there's a favorite story that pops off the top of my head, but I mean, I really enjoyed being on Raucous. Got a lot of love for those guys, Brian and Jared. That was a time in my career that I felt like we were part of a family. And it wasn't, the artists didn't really hang out that often. Like me and Mos Def hung out, and me and Pharaoh now hang out way more than we did back then. You know, I didn't really, hang out with LP and them that much, or Sir Menelik and them that much, but it still felt like a family. Everybody had their own thing. And that sort of family vibe is what I try to capture with Javoti Media, and so the Raucous thing is very inspirational to what I do now with Reese and Nico Is and Kay Valentine and Corey Moore and all that.
Because I feel like labels aren't as relevant in these days, but there's more like independent labels, like, having people have their start their own, if you see.
Yeah, independent labels who push independent artists are far more relevant to the industry right now.
It's true, like your LP, as an
yeah,
example,
like LP
yeah.
and Killer Mike and them, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And final question, I wanted to ask about, you were actually the first artist to release music with Kanye that wasn't on Rockefeller. So how did you come to meet him?
Kanye walked into my studio session one day. He was supposed to give Mos Def some beats, and Mos Def wasn't there. And I said, well, why don't you play me the beats? And that's how I met him while I was working on Quality Album.
I see. Yeah, 'cause that's how Get By and stuff on there as well.
He just opened the door and walked in. He says, Mos Def here? I said, no.
Oh, great. Well, thank you very much for joining me on the Lily Mercer Show.
Oh, this is a show. Okay, good. There's a whole show. Yeah. Thank you, Lily.
Thank you.
They still don't get it, no. It's a recession, what recession, dog? We been stressing shit. Been a mess and we been dealing with this depression since way back. You ain't gotta say that, that's the greatest lesson. Slave to our possession, greed the devil's favorite weapon. Fight to the death, only the greatest weapon. Lord. I've been hustling really hard to get them off my, start making some moves. But 2 and 2 together, start paying the dues. I gotta get up for it. It's still so truth be told, I'll probably be lyrically. Say it again, lyrically.